Well, it's the end of the week, and look at us. We both put our party shirts on.
Oh, it's the end of the week.
Yeah.
I should be on the golf course.
You should.
Sorry.
Thank God the weather isn't good today, and that's why you're not on the golf course.
There you go.
Hey, did I heard, Stefan, that maybe you had a pretty big milestone recently?
Yes, a big birthday, a big 6-0 birthday.
60 years old, and you don't look a
Yes.
day over 58.
Thank you, John. very, very nice of you.
But I heard you had a wonderful party, and it was a wonderful day.
Absolutely, it was. Thanks.
It's nice to have a bunch of people who love you.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that's like, so, you know, I'm jealous. I live vicariously through you.
Well, you have another 9 years in front of you.
Right, so maybe I can make some friends.
There you go.
And today, I think, you know, you and I were having a conversation earlier this week, and some interesting thoughts, and we wanted to share it with the incredibly fast-growing audience for this podcast.
Of course.
And you are the dollar store king
Thank you.
at Lid, because you have, as many people who've listened to the last episode with you know, but those who don't, I mean, you have an extensive experience working both as a consultant and as an operator,
Exactly.
leading a supply chain in the dollar store world. So you have a lot of insights there.
Mm-hmm.
And so first, let's check in. There's been some interesting news about dollar stores these days.
Yeah.
What do you have to tell us?
Well, a lot of closure, a lot of opening. Overall, I think there's been more openings than closures.
Yeah.
So the market is growing, and it's growing in certain areas. Of course, they're concentrating where they think their business is. Difference between Canada and in the U.S. Through studies I read, Canada is getting more and more client in, and even people that makes more money. While in the U.S., it's the other way around. They're blaming, and I read through some reports from those dollar store company, they're blaming it on the let's call it the mid-range
Retailer?
people.
Oh, okay. Middle
that
income
are
people.
Middle income people that are not coming to the dollar store as much.
Interesting.
And it's the
So
other
it's the
way around.
reverse
And
trend.
it's the other way around in
Canada, we're seeing folks from middle and upper incomes make more stops at a dollar store, and they're shopping. That same demographic is shopping less in the dollar stores in the U.S., which is
Yes.
really interesting. And one of the things that's interesting related to that is, I have a bit of a TikTok addiction, and I do like to pretend that it's because of all the great news I get, very easy access to news. But one thing that has been a big deal here with I know on both sides of the border, grocery prices are a big deal. And we talk about on TikTok, they love to pull out what does Campbell soup cost at the dollar store and what does it cost at, enemy number one of your large grocery chains. And the price differential is shocking for the same product. And I know that's where it got interesting because you had a lot to say about that.
Yeah, because we started talking about how grocery and dollar stores were trying to avoid each other competing.
Yeah.
So they won't carry the same assortment.
Yeah.
Basically. So they're trying to get their assortment unique. So every grocery chain, every dollar store, they're both trying to get their line of product unique so they can control the price better. So they don't have to compete one to another. Same thing within the same chain. If you look at their e-com platform and their brick and mortar stores, they won't sell the same product. Just to make sure that they don't have to compete against each other, and they can control the price better. So, that 60 I just turned reminds me of Steinberg back then, when it was Dominion, Steinberg's, remember?
Dominion,
A&P.
Steinberg's, the
Yeah.
old grocery chains.
So back then, it was a thing to try to get the lowest price
right.
possible.
Everyone's competing to get the lowest price possible.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
they've reached a point where there's no more profit.
Because right now, you're now competing with the dollar stores
Yeah.
for that lowest price possible, and the idea is obviously you're not going to beat the dollar stores in theory.
Exactly. So let's get a different product, something else, and sell it to at a pricing that makes sense and that creates profit for the company, which absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. So
And
that
that's
the
why
consumer
we're seeing
walks in-
less and less variety on the shelves.
Right. So the consumer walks in, and then I'm walking into my grocery store preference, not because of a pricing issue, hopefully, at least this is the strategy. I'm walking in because there are certain key items that I love, I've grown to love, or, you can take it to an extreme. I mean, we both know a retailer that takes it to an extreme, and maybe you could just, without getting, just the basic strategy of what that...
Which is to get as many product, brand name, they're branding it through their companies and trying to get customer to love it. So, and that's the only place you can get it. I mean,
Right.
it's the same thing. It's I mean, the big grocer in the States, they do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they have their brand name, and people are, there's now, it used to be just one mayonnaise for us here, but now there's many of them, and
Yep.
some people will like, a branded mayonnaise instead of the traditional.
And right, the private label strategy, as we were saying just minutes ago, in originally was a strategy of, I'm going to give you call it equivalent quality to the national brand, but at a lower price.
Mm-hmm.
But the grocery store could do that because they collected more of the margin, so they could lower the price and make it attractive. And the most famous, and this is one thing that for the folks who don't know their Canadian grocery history too well, but Loblaws was the company in North America that kind of changed the game with their President's Choice chocolate chip cookies and their President's Choice mac and cheese, which became perceived by the consumer as a much higher quality product than anything that was in that part of the planogram.
Yeah.
And so people actually started thinking of President's Choice as a high-end brand, that it was, the Weston family themselves. Almost like, now that I think about it, how there are products in the UK that get the seal, Her Majesty's.
Yeah.
And it's like this chocolate chip cookie is the only one the Weston family would allow in their house. So it must be the best that you can get.
Same with the cookies. Same with the cookies
And now we're seeing a proliferation of that strategy, is what you're telling me.
Exactly.
And especially we see that, and again, we've seen that with lots of, you just take Trader Joe's. I mean, Trader Joe's private label is perceived as a premium,
As an high-end,
not necessarily the greatest, but
No.
but always like,
premium.
they're going to have the
Yeah.
interesting assortment. I'm going to go to Trader Joe's and see what cookie products they've come up with.
And they have, you go there for salad dressing, and they have salad dressings that are totally different than
Right.
any other store.
Right.
And then you go and I'll try it. Okay, you like cucumber with whatever it is.
100%.
Well, you can't find it anywhere else. Or Kraft doesn't manufacture it. So if you like it, well, then you have to go back to Trader Joe's.
You have to go back to Trader Joe's, and you don't care that you paid an extra 17 cents for
you
that
did.
salad dressing.
For
you
sure.
did. You paid that extra 17
Yeah.
cents. You didn't notice,
Yeah.
and they got their margin. And they don't have to compete with the Kraft salad dressings that are in a dollar store.
And that's exactly why we wanted to have this chat, because, it went from a strategy of low price to a strategy of acquiring.
Differentiated assortment.
Yeah, and acquiring client base and locking them in. You lock them in because, they want your product. and
Yep.
your product is only available at your place.
Yeah,
So
I love this, and everyone should know this trick, because when we go to restaurants, the first thing when we're having a lovely meal, and they'll say, "Well, we have a private wine list, right? Privately built up wine list," and it's just so that you can't compare what the retail price is on the store shelf, so you don't know how badly you're getting ripped off.
yeah. Well, every other bottle of wine, you can look on your phone and know that you're paying 3 times the price of the SAQ here in Quebec, or
Right.
or LCBO, or
Yeah.
you know.
You know, I do not. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but one thing I want to say, if anyone is listening who is in the salad dressing world, at home I make this pretty terrific gochujang salad dressing.
Okay.
All right, it's sort of like a cheap, fast, pathetic version of a kimchi. And you can, kimchi, we think of cabbage, but you can do it with any vegetable. And man, oh man, someone's got to come out with a jar of gochujang salad dressing. It saved me a little bit of work, because you have to I slice the green onions real thin into these straws. Anyway, I would pay 60, 75 cents more for that bottle of dressing.
Okay. Well, I gotta say that. Well, now that we're talking salad dressing, mine comes from Saguenay.
Oh,
Because of someone I ideally love, and
Yes.
It's Saguenay made.
but
And
what
it's
is it?
unique.
What is it?
Well, it's unique. I mean, it's just this. I mean, they call it the classic salad dressing, VO. And when we used to
Where do you buy it?
We used to import it from Saguenay, and
No one
then-
knows where
and-
Saguenay is. That's a region about 2 hours north of Quebec City in
Yeah,
Quebec. It's
yeah.
absolutely gorgeous.
So back then we used to go to Saguenay to get it, and then it came to Quebec. But now we can get it here in our grocery store. So
We can?
yes, we
All right,
can.
I'll look for it.
I'll get you. I'll get you.
Yeah, but isn't that always the case? Specialty foods, for example. What is the difference? We have a beloved customer, Stonewall Kitchen, and they've got their wild Maine blueberry jam or Maine wild blueberry jam, I should say, versus the Smucker's jam. Now how much of the and I say this with love and respect to everyone involved, how much of the production method is different? They're identical production methods. The recipe's different. The quality ingredients could be different. But it's so much is identical. But the label says Maine wild blueberry jam, and already mentally I'm getting a better product, right? Because it's wild blueberries.
Yeah.
None of these farmed blueberries. These are wild.
Yeah.
And that kind of trick has been proliferating across the industry. What does that say for the supply chain?
It says a lot. It says a lot because right now, pricing is everything right now, and people are shopping through different channel, and it creates a lot of opportunity for grocer, a lot of opportunity for omni-channel. It creates a lot of opportunity because there's a lot more channel than there was before. So, for us or for the supply chain, it means a lot more smaller order. Again,
Yep.
I had the discussion yesterday. We're not going to the pallet. We're going to the unit, right?
Right.
When we talk about what's the trend, well, the trend is still that way because now that pricing is so important because of the economy and how it is. People are shopping, so people are going to start doing stops at different places because they have to pay attention to what they're spending because groceries is very expensive right
Yeah.
now. So.
Yeah, and one thing I'm thinking, again informed by some of our shared experiences of late, it changes if you think the procurement team, or what we used to call with pride buyers, they have to shift their emphasis from price negotiation and bullying the vendor, which is not a fair way of saying it, but let's just say that, to curation, to being very discriminating about what kind of products I get up onto the store shelf. And that's a merchandising and procurement changes their focus, doesn't it?
Yep. Well, look at, I mean, a good example is and I'll stop there, but with Costco and their Kirkland product. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Well done. But then on the other side, if I'm a manufacturer, small family, mid-sized food processor, there's some opportunity here.
Absolutely.
Right? Because people will be looking for you if you can be a game changer in a category. You said the VO dressing. Now
Yes.
I am going to look for it, and I will be curious to see how good it is. I will buy it regardless what the price is. My next bottle of salad dressing is this VO.
Yeah.
You know? And so that creates opportunities. The problem will be to remind everyone that these grocery chains are just as much about how easy can you integrate into their supply chain as they are the quality of your product. Absolutely. So you need to digitize. You need to be able to do the EDI communications. You need to have all that set up because that is actually not as important as the quality of the product that you're making.
But the one product manufacturers are going to have to go through, distributor, food distributor,
right?
Because I mean they won't be able to be up to speed with that technology and
right.
everything that is required for a one product manufacturing company.
Yep.
If you're a one product, I mean it's just not going to pay. And that's how they're going to get through it, is going through food distributors and others.
I would say, thinking about what you're saying, I would say that, for the warehouse, let's say, the retailer's distribution center, get ready for more churn, a SKU churn,
Yes.
Get ready for a wider, potentially base of slow-moving product. Like you said, we are drifting from the pallet to the unit in our handling, and that's happening in food service as much as it is in the retail world. And so that creates a more complicated operation.
Absolutely.
And by nature, a less productive operation, which is not something you can do anything about. It is baked into the problem you're trying to solve as a distributor.
Yes, it is.
Fascinating. Now, is there anything you want to add before we close up?
No, I think we've covered it all.
Can we promise ourselves next time to make sure that we're not wearing the same shirt?
Okay, let's do that.
I will wear gray next time.
Okay.
All right? And then you can wear anything else. I'll
Okay.
be in gray.
Cool.
Stefan, have a great
Hey,
weekend.
thank you very much. You too.
Take care.
Bye.